Hey everyone, welcome to PunkCast. My name is William Maxwell. I'm a student of Web3 and the owner of Punk9527. CryptoPunks are 10,000 uniquely generated characters stored permanently on the Ethereum blockchain. No punk is the same. This is a show dedicated to celebrating the punks behind the punk. My hope for this podcast is that we capture the essence of the punk culture, elevate the brand and the individual behind the punk. One last thing. Projects discussed in the show is not financial advice. Crypto and NFTs are a volatile and risky asset class. Please always do your own research. Other than that, let's go. GM, welcome back to another episode of PunkCast. Today we have another respectable punk that's had some banger tweets and hot takes on punks. He's a current owner of Punk4000 with 2 attributes, a blue bandana and small shades. Please welcome to the one and only JpegPrez. Prez, welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you for having me. GM, happy to be here.
Mate, you've got a really dope punk and a really cool anon name, mate. So how did you actually come up with JpegPrez? Is there a story behind that, or just your creative juices flowing?
Yeah, so I purchased the punk, I guess, 3 months ago or so, and I was kind of I'm a creative by nature, so I was kind of brainstorming, and obviously, Punk4000. Actually, I grabbed Punk4000.eth, but that was kind of boring to me. And then, I was playing with like Punk4K, Punk4000, kind of just playing with some ideas, and I was like, that's kind of lame. There's so many of those out there. And not that there's not anything wrong with that, but just trying to kind of separate, my brand and almost kind of create a brand in a sense. And I believe NFTprez and some of those other names are taken, and I was like, let me see if JpegPrez is taken. It has a nice ring to it, and it was there, and I was like, oh, wow, okay, I'm taking this, I'm running with this. And there's been some slight adjustments to the profile. Obviously my Twitter name and my .eth is JpegPrez, but I've kind of tried to keep it a little more simple and just go by Prez on Twitter. Been using the salute emoji a bit and really trying to kind of curate my brand a little bit. Been as active as I possibly could with as normal sleep habits as possible, but I've been having an absolute blast on Twitter with the tweets and engaging and the community as a whole.
No, mate, you definitely have got that presidential air about you on crypto Twitter, mate. Didn't Gordon Garner just follow you yesterday or something?
He did last night. Yeah, I went to bed, and I have no idea what tweet triggered it. But I have had some not controversial, but a little bit of thought-provoking tweets that people can have some fun with, I think, and kind of get behind their project and not protect their bags, but protect their project in a sense and give their validation on why they think one is better or why they think one will stand the test of time. But yeah, woke up at around 1:30 a.m. my time, and like any degen, you check your Twitter to see what's going on, do a quick scroll, go to the bathroom, and I checked my recent followers, and I saw that blue check mark, and of course those blue beams coming out of the PFP, and I was like, nah, this has got to be a fake, where somebody just bought a blue check Twitter, followed me, they're going to try to scam me, take my punk. And lo and behold, yeah, it was there were some official people following them, and I was like, wow, this is actually Gordon. Pretty sick. So yeah, it was not a bad Wednesday early morning to wake up to.
Well, congratulations, mate. I want to probably come back to that tweet, actually. I think that probably evokes a lot of emotions out of the punk community and the ape community as well. So that we can come back to that, because I think that's a good one. But I guess just for everybody that's listening, could you maybe introduce yourself and I guess a little bit about your background, where you studied, where you grew up, and a bit of context in terms of how you got here without actually doxing yourself? Sure.
So I've been in sales for roughly 8 years. Outside of NFTs, but the work that I was in was a lot of grinding. Started from a very, very low end sales associate, where the big lifting and the heavy lifting and the big workload really fell on me. So I was forced to kind of drink via fire hydrant. And, I learned a ton with that. I learned a lot of business skills, a lot of people skills, a lot of how to build relationships, how to, create, almost a brand for yourself in real life, which I still think transfers over even into the Twitter world. There's always that person behind the computer, no matter how much they want to, remain anonymous or be like this, kind of anonymous, computer person. There's still a person there. So, taking that and, realizing, what was coming with NFTs. I kind of saw it, last, I guess it was the winter of 2020, I think winter of 2020 when NBA Top Shot kind of got pretty big. I got involved with that, did pretty well, got some series ones, sold some of them at the top, some of them I held too long, made out pretty well. And then, I started to get, I was always interested in crypto, back even in college and in, the 2017 bull run that ultimately crashed. And, the old crypto is dead tweets would go out. So I always had a pulse on it, but I never really got, fully engaged until, NBA Top Shot. And then ultimately kind of the summer of, the spring, summer of NFTs. I did miss, unfortunately, Bored Ape Yacht Club. I did have a colleague who told me to get in at 0.5, didn't get in at 0.5, told me to get in around 1 ETH, didn't get in around 1 ETH. And then ultimately when the Kennel Club was releasing, I believe they were about 3 ETH at that point. And I was not priced out, but a little bit uncomfortable to be throwing that kind of a bag at NFTs at that point. I probably, obviously looking back, I should have bought as many as I possibly could, probably taken out a loan. But I did not. But that's okay. I was doing, pretty well in real life and, got involved in a few projects, did pretty well, flipped my way up to, enough where I could purchase, my punk and I made some other purchases, got involved in Moonbirds. I had a few mutants at one point, ultimately sold off some of those, pretty much all of them. I do hold, a shared Moonbird at the current moment, as well as an Oddity and, a few other NFTs. They're not in my current wallet just because they're shared. They're in a separate ledger that I share with a friend. But I'm still involved, still looking. I feel like the market at this time, with everything going on the outside with the macro, the SEC, the Feds, it's a little weird. And again, not financial advice, of course, but I feel like the ETH price point will go a bit lower. And I feel like there will be some great entry points into some of these blue chip NFTs in the very near future. I don't know the exact timeline, but I get up every day. I log on to Twitter every day. I'm scouring Twitter. I'm scouring OpenSea. I'm keeping tabs on everything that's going on. So I'm definitely not gone. I'm definitely still here.
No, amazing. And so I think your sales background ending is actually sort of translating through. I think you speak quite well on Twitter, and I think you're getting a lot of engagement from that as well. And more importantly, I think I really enjoy them because a lot of them are very punk sort of focused as well. But and then I think you spoke about NBA Top Shot. So was that your sort of first entry into sort of NFTs?
That was, and I guess everybody has kind of their own take on whether that's, truly an NFT or not, because it's not truly on the blockchain, but that was definitely my first taste at, owning a moment or owning, something in a digital format, which I thought was very, very interesting. And also at the same time, hard to wrap your brain around, just because, there was a clip of, LeBron James making an awesome dunk, and you could go and watch that same clip on YouTube. And, it was, I think, for anyone who grew up in, the YouTube age or the digital age or, anything like that, it was tough to understand how I owned that moment. And I think in NBA Top Shot, they missed the mark a bit with utilizing their partnership with the NBA, and there was no real, utility with these moments. If you could have, had a discount at the NBA store, or access to exclusive tickets, or raffle to tickets, or something, anything, that by me holding these moments, even if it was the more rare ones that got me, a higher opportunity or a higher percentage, I feel like they just kind of let that go by the wayside. And, by that time, NFTs started coming out, and, airdrops and staking, and, ultimately tokens started, becoming the new hit. And
yeah,
it kind of just fell, I feel like.
Just along that journey then, so a couple of questions. So one is, how did you, I guess, discover NBA Top Shots? And two is, when did the penny really drop for you around the concept of NFTs and sort of digital ownership? Like, how did you mentally sort of get through that?
Sure. So I remember we were we were skiing for a birthday weekend up in the mountains, and my friend was telling me briefly about it, and I was like, yeah, man, like, I don't know, like, it's just they're videos, they're clips, like, how are they worth anything? I don't understand. I still remember this tweet that I forget, I would never be able to find it again, but this guy bought a moment for like $7,000, and I think it was like a James Harden or something, and he told his girlfriend that he bought it, and she was, like, you could have bought me, a Gucci handbag with that $7K. And then the next day, or like, 48 hours later, he flipped it for like 15 grand. And he like added her on Twitter, and he was like, oh yeah, babe, we still want that Gucci handbag or something like that. It was, and I was like, okay, this is wild. This is kind of getting crazy. And, obviously the world was in a really weird spot with COVID and the lockdown, and there was these checks being sent out in the United States, and people had money, people were kind of throwing around money. It was a very, very, I think, unique and almost lightning in a bottle time for NFTs and NBA Top Shot. And I had that friend, and then another friend who really got involved in NBA Top Shot prior to him. He kind of got him involved. And that's when, I got first downloaded Discord. I got the invite to the Discord, started engaging with a few bigger NFT communities. The one, I think that one was made by Moon Overlord. That one was very, very instrumental in me kind of understanding, NFTs and the value and, ownership. And that's where it started to kind of click a little bit. I was still kind of just seeing it as like almost like a little bit of a Ponzi scheme, a little bit of a, get rich quick, who's the last one to sell, kind of leaving that last person with the bag, which a lot of times that is the case with many of these NFTs. It is, kind of who's first in, who's first out. Obviously if you diamond hand some, it turns out to be really well. If you hold on too long, it can end pretty badly.
Totally. It's interesting. You were talking about Moon Overlord. What was a degen sort of hangout spot for people just aping to random projects, or did Moon Overlord actually have some sort of context in terms of why everybody was in the Discord?
Yeah, he started I still remember he put out the tweet, and he was like saying how this is like, it was like the first alpha channel that I really joined or found. Gotcha. Where they had crypto general, they had NFTs, they had NBA Top Shot, they had just pretty much everything and anything that you were looking for as a true degen. So it was a lot of every morning, people were in there, and I remember there were some, bigger names in there that were, talking about projects, whether it was, are we getting involved in like, duckies, or like, these random, projects that I'm sure are dead and gone. But one of my first ones that I really got involved with was, what was it? It was NFT London or something like that. It was this generative art project that got super hyped up.
Yeah, the London Gift.
London Gift. Yeah, do you remember that one?
Mate, I bought an absolute bag of those things because it was for the EI, to celebrate the EIP 1559 burning mechanism that they just launched, right? And so it was to commemorate that. Yeah, I remember those. They still sit in my bag. They're not going anywhere. I don't think anyone wants to buy them.
Yeah, because, that's very, it's so interesting. Like those were so hyped up, and that was generative art. Another one that I still think has a chance to at some point come back is the crypto art, where are you familiar with those? Where it's like blocks of all very, very important times on like the Ethereum blockchain.
No, I haven't seen that.
No, so yeah, I'm looking at them right now, and you can get them in super high def. It's basically, represents the block numbers of a time period on the Ethereum blockchain, and it's super cool looking. They're very, very very interesting. I mean, I guess to some people they could be a little bit boring, but some of them have some really nice, color schemes, and they are a very, very, I think, big part of NFT and generative art and crypto history, just because they literally are history in an image.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe they make a run.
Is it CryptopArte? ARTE? Is that the one?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, I do remember these actually. They were floating around on crypto Twitter.
Yeah.
A while back.
And you can download them, and, once you have them in a crazy, crazy high def version, which I think is, again, like really cool. You could have these displayed on your wall in your house. Once we get to that point, when there's displays.
It's kind of funny, right? Like, were you into art before NFTs?
Yeah, so I definitely grew up, in a house where, art was always, kind of not pushed, but, encouraged, the creativity aspect of it. In school, I loved art. I loved painting. I loved drawing. Okay. I loved, creating, any type of art, really, whether it was, paper mache or oil painting or water painting. I didn't really love water, but I really did like pencil and shading and, kind of creating that. So I grew up definitely around art. So I appreciated, like the Fidenzas. Like, I think those are absolutely some of the most stunning, pieces of generative art you've ever seen. And I'm kind of excited for this drop today. I'm hoping
QQL. Yeah. Are you gonna mint?
We'll see how deep it goes. I put out a little tweet yesterday just to, I like gauging the people's interest. I like seeing what people think and getting feedback. I think that's important. Why use Twitter? Why have this social platform if you're not engaging with the people that you're on the platform with? If you're not having these conversations, so many people get offended, or, if you say, why do you think that? People think you're attacking them. Like, no, I'm just genuinely curious why you think. I don't know. We'll see.
Those, Denza is definitely a classic sort of gen art piece, but QQL actually looks like some real beautiful pieces coming into that too. But I was just going to say, I sort of feel like, you might be the exception to most degens that actually appreciates art and actually probably has a bit of an art eye. I think most degens probably haven't even collected a piece of art before, up until sort of NFTs, and they go off sort of buying all sorts of random stuff in the NFT space. Case in point, people like me as well.
Yeah, no, I loved actually through the gift shop with Banksy. I think Banksy is so cool. He was almost that first anonymous artist before NFTs. Like, he was that guy running around the streets of London and New York and all these various places where they're trying to catch him, they're trying to get him, but he's doing these super controversial, thought-provoking pieces of art on walls or wherever, like, throughout these cities, and people, if he does it on your wall, you're pretty much just made you a millionaire if you want to take it off and resell it.
Totally.
So I love that. What are your thoughts on the drop today?
I really love it. I think it's really bringing something new and fresh to the space. So it's not just generative art anymore. It's this this concept of co-creation with the collector. Mm-hmm. And so, this concept of you get a mint pass and you get to select which sort of algorithm that sort of suits your taste, and then you can go ahead and mint it. But also at the same time, 2% of future royalties also comes back to you. And so I think that was a really interesting way of delivering gen art in a really special way that hasn't really been done before. And obviously it's Tyler and the outputs of it have been really, really stunning, visually stunning. But yeah, I think I'm in the camp of sit and wait in terms of how it's going to be minted. Price levels. I don't think I'm a buyer sort of above 10, to be honest, but we'll see.
Yeah. But I did see interesting, if you do buy, say someone, early on buys, they wait or whatever, and they buy it for, 40 ETH and it finishes at 10, they get that 30 ETH or that.
That's right. That's right.
So I think that's fair. A lot of these Dutch auctions, I do feel bad for the people who FOMO in at the top, and now you're sitting with this, this asset that you paid, 4 or 5x of the floor, and you're sitting there like, why the hell, it's that mechanism should have always been in place, in my opinion.
Totally, but not to scare you off if you are intending on minting, but I think all of this mechanics is still new, right? So you're trusting the smart contract dev to sort of do it properly. So I think I don't know if you remember that drop with Akutas. They did exactly the same thing, and basically they went to refund everybody, and I think they lost like a couple $1 million of funds, right? Because the smart contract, they just couldn't get it back out.
I did see though that they put out the smart contract on their Twitter and said anybody that can find a bug or an issue with the smart contract, there's like a reward, maybe like a free mint or something.
Yeah, that's good. But look, Dandelion and Tyler Hobbs are pretty much top notch, right? I'm not.
Yeah, they're not messing.
Sure, they're not messing around. Yeah.
Forever.
Cool, man. So you've actually got a pretty interesting sort of background in terms of what sort of led you to NFTs, and then you said you bought Punk4000 a couple of 4 or 5 months ago, or what sort of led you along that sort of journey? Is this your first punk, by the way? But
this is my first punk, yeah. So I was looking, I always liked the punks. I didn't always love them. And I started looking more and more, and I started kind of getting like a more feel for the market and kind of where this was going. I always, not that I didn't appreciate the Chromie Squiggle, but I've slowly become a lover of the Chromie Squiggles, and I've been hawking the page, trying to find someone who's selling that we can do a little negotiation on. But a lot of times these Chromie Squiggle holders are very, very anonymous, and they do not have a link to their Twitter, or if they even have a Twitter or Discord or what have you. So I started to look at where the market was going, and almost every single project was a external dependency project where they launch, and every day or every week, if you're a holder of that project, you got to check in. You're hoping for an announcement. The floor price is going down. When? What's next? Are we doing staking? Are we doing metaverse play? Are we getting another airdrop? Token. There was always this when, and for someone in the space who I don't love living my life like that, where it's sure there can be a very, very big upside to that. With Bored Apes, if you minted or bought one before the Kennel Club or before the Mutants or before the Ape Coin, there's a huge benefit in that external dependency play. But at this point in the market, where not that we've seen it all, but there's going to need to be, I don't know where they go from here. I know there's rumors of Mecha Apes, and obviously staking is coming next. But the more and more I looked at punks, and I was lucky enough to buy one when ETH was pretty low, which I'm happy about. Again, the floor price was a bit higher, which is okay. Again, I'm not in it or holding it, or holding it to flip. I'm not looking to flip. If anything, I'm looking to possibly buy another one if we go lower. So I saw the punks, and I spoke to a few punk holders about it, and the community just seemed very mature, very articulate, very tight knit, and astute, and I love that about it. No disrespect to any other community, but I feel like they're in it for the long haul, and they're not the right reasons, but the reasons of owning a piece of history and a piece of art that is super, super instrumental in this whole run that we're going on, this whole new age that we're embarking on. So, the more I looked into it, and then I saw Punk4000, and I love the number. I love the shades. I love the bandana. I love just the aesthetic, everything about it. It was super clean. It was me. I needed it. and I found the owner, and we negotiated, and I was able to get it, thankfully.
Man, it is a really super cool punk. And Punk4000, I think that number just reminds me of almost like Terminator, like a T2000 type of name, which is really cool too. Did you look at any other sort of specific traits, or did you just go bandana shades?
I saw, I was looking on the floor. I didn't want to go crazy. My first punk, it was, obviously a big purchase, and no matter how you spin it, $100,000 for a JPEG is a lot of money, and a lot of my friends and people, look at me like I have 30 heads doing this. But, when you know what you know, and you've seen, things happen before, and not that history repeats itself, but the old saying, it tends to rhyme. I think as these digital assets and more of these companies and people get onboarded into NFTs, and it may not even be called NFTs. People may not even realize or understand that they're engaging with the blockchain, or this is even an NFT in the very, very near future with the Starbucks or any of these major brands who will create their own platforms and kind of gift these millions of people their first NFT for the first time, even if it's just for free. They'll look at it kind of just as a digital asset. And with these punks, they are not for the masses. They are very, very this exclusive, almost a Illuminati-ish kind of feel of these NFTs that only a handful of individuals have. And I feel like the spread will get a lot tighter, and a lot more will come off the market because the people will slowly begin to see their value and their importance and their historical and blockchain importance, that they were one of the first, if not the first PFP NFT on the blockchain. So just that fact alone, over time, people will look back at these things like they're very, very important artifacts. And I could be completely wrong. They could go completely to zero, but that's just my gut feeling.
I'm a buyer anywhere close to zero, mate. But I think what you sort of said there really hit home with me. I think you said it really well. One is, no external dependencies. So, you're not relying on a central team to build that utility to drive and accrue value back to your NFT. And I think that's what's really unique about CryptoPunks. It's a finished product, right? And especially in a bear market, you probably go to bed a little bit easier because you're not stressed about getting any utility delivered, right? It just is. So really, that sort of point really resonated with me, and I think your second one is really around cultural and historical significance, and I just don't feel like there's any other NFT that comes to my mind that has had as much of influence and impact on the NFT space. I mean, when you talk about identity profile picture NFTs, 5-10 years down the track, can't have that conversation without CryptoPunks being there, right? They might not be the first. You've had Ether Rocks and Curio cards or whatever they are, but they weren't sort of identity plays, right? I'm with you on those. So those really hit home for me, man. I don't know if I really enjoy speaking to punks, and I've specifically spoken or set up a podcast to speak to punks to drink my own Kool-Aid, but I really love listening to punks think and talk about it the same way. So besides CryptoPunks, man, like what else are you sort of collecting and have in the bag? I think you sort of said Moonbirds as well. Anything else of a particular interest? Like what did you sort of get into those sort of projects? So
a friend of mine, kind of brought up the Proof Pass, quite a bit ago. And at the time, I think the Proof Pass was around 60 ETH, and I was like, man, that's a lot for a pass. And looking back, if you played correctly, it could have been very, very beneficial. But looking back, also at this time, it could have been not the best play. So I got involved with Moonbirds. I was lucky enough to win the opportunity to mint one for 2.5 ETH, and I did.
Nice.
And held it for a bit, and then I spoke with a friend, and we were able to go in on another one. I ultimately ended up selling mine at some point, and but we're still holding one, still nice and cozy and nested. But for me, I really do want to start getting a little bit more into the generative art, which is, you know, a big reason why I am excited for this Hobbs mid today. I do want to see, you know, keep tabs on it, see where it goes, see if I can possibly get myself one, because the art is absolutely stunning. And I, you know, who knows, you know, if ETH goes down a little further, I may be a buyer of a Fidenza. It's, again, I feel like the Fidenzas are a huge part of generative art history as well. You know, those were something that went absolutely nuclear at one point. They were sitting at a very, very affordable rate, and then they weren't. And, you know, I don't know if that's the last one. I doubt it's the last one that'll happen to. But yeah, you know, they're super cool. They're very cool to look at. And every time I see one, I'm like, man, I can see that on a massive scale on someone's wall in like their foyer.
Yeah, they're a really special piece. I was actually listening when you bring up Proof. Yeah, I'm part of Proof as well, but I listen, and it's really a really good community to be part of if you're interested in art and NFT art. But they recently had an interview with Tyler Hobbs and Dandelion, and they were just talking about Fidenzas and how much range it had. And I hadn't sort of taken a look at it from that perspective before, but they said it had a very high emotional range. So you can have really bright, you know, and happy type sort of palettes, and then all the way to the other spectrum where it can be really dark as well. Mm-hmm. And I think when you have a look at, you know, sort of other collections, and I think they called out archetypes for, I think it was Golid, really nice pieces, but I guess the emotional sort of tone was basically flat and neutral throughout the whole collection. And so I think, you know, it's just another layer of how special Fidenzas sort of were. And I think it's just absolutely striking when you just when you see one, right? You sort of instantly know it's a Fidenza.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's been I feel like some that came on the scene that are not copycats, but, you know, have the same kind of vibe. And, you know, when you look at the Fidenzas though, you're just like, man, that's just one of a kind.
Yeah, totally. When you look back in your sort of NFT career, do you have memorable moments where you go, this has really been life-changing for me?
Not really. You know, it's been a really, really fun journey just in general. Just learning a ton and being so involved in the space. You know, helping out, you know, onboard some friends has been really, really cool. You know, friends that I never thought would be interested in this, that got involved and fell in love with, you know, the art or the technology or the, you know, aspect of Web3. So I think just the whole ride has been, you know, a blast for me. I really enjoyed meeting new people, you know, meeting people even just on Twitter, connecting with people on Twitter, continuing to build, you know, those connections. I think has been super important for me and very, 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 very fun, honestly. Even attending the Punk event this past week in New York City was awesome. Getting to meet a lot of the punks in real life. I'm super excited for the next Punks brunch. You know, hopefully Noah and the rest of the Yuga Labs Punks team puts together something, you know, incredible for the punks in the near future. I think that's super important. You know, showing that Yuga does really care about, you know, the punks and what this community has to offer.
Hopefully I can get over to New York one day and join you guys. But are there sort of any sort of NFTs you should have sold or held a bit longer that you should have, or any sort of losses that you sort of regret?
I think we all have those. You know, it's always easy to look back and, you know, hindsight's 20/20 always, right? So, you know, I think almost everybody in this space either wishes they held on a little bit longer, or they sold a little quicker, or it's damn near impossible to time the top, especially in this space. So
No, totally.
I don't regret anything. I take it with learning. And if fool me one time, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me three times, then it's completely on me. But so any time I feel like I made a mistake or I held too long, I try to, compartmentalize that and remember that. And even when, I see E starting to, maybe take off a little bit, I'm like, you know what, like trust your fundamentals, trust what's going on, it's going to bounce, it's going to keep, and if you want to make a play, make a play, but, don't make a play on FOMO, don't make a play on, anxiety or feel like you're about to miss out on something, or it's about to go to all-time highs, because 9 times out of 10 it's not. Maybe that one time you get lucky, but I think acting with your emotions is one of the worst things that you can do in this space.
Sage advice, and very, very stoic advice, mate. I wish I could sort of say the same. I keep beating myself over a lot of things, but cool. And so when you're looking across sort of crypto Twitter, is there do you have like a sort of a favorite punk that you sort of follow, or that you think that's dropped a lot of knowledge and insight for you?
Yeah, of course, man. Maxwellx, gotta go follow.
Besides me, of course.
No, I really like DC Investor. I know he's kind of peeled back a little bit with some of his tweets, but DSFI is always a great follow. He's been in the space for a long time. I think a lot of these guys, not that they're burnt out, but they've been here since the beginning, if not even before that, back when people were paying outrageous amounts of money for those crypto rocks. But he's a good one. Farouk, he's no matter what you think or feel about him, he's a grinder, man. He's always showing up. He's doing his morning shows. Same thing with NFT Nick. They're doing their morning shows every day, daily. They're still showing up during this bear market. So I think there's a bunch of really good punks out there to follow. I know a lot are very reclusive, but there are still a lot out there that are grinding daily. And a lot of times those punk holders are also Bored Ape holders, and they're just rocking an 8 PFP, which is totally cool. I love the opportunity to intermingle with punks and apes and mutants, and I think that's good for the space. I don't think making that separation and keeping everybody separate is good at all.
That's very well put and said, Prez. I think we need to be a little bit more inclusive in the space, right? Sort of feel, and I sort of feel it from, I don't know if you get a lot of Bitcoin maxis on your sort of Twitter feed, but it's getting a little bit toxic on some of those elements, right? And I'm sort of thinking sometimes that I might be a little bit toxic, shilling punk sort of culture and everybody else, and imposing that on everybody else when they might not necessarily like it either. So cool. And then if you could just before we sort of wrap up, if you could just pass on a single message to the next owner of your Punk 4000, what would you like to say to them?
It ain't happening.
Beautiful answer.
No. If I do, if I end up passing them along, I had a conversation with someone yesterday in a Google Meet. We were just talking about kind of the punk culture and what it means to be a punk holder, and there's a lot of cool things that come along with being a punk. You can make it your PFP, whether people see you as a great collector or someone that's an exclusive group or however they look at you, that's great. And that's awesome that you have, the ability to reach quite a few individuals, but at the same time, you are part of this club that has very, very high, morals and standards. And, the last thing that I want to do is, disappoint the punk community. I don't want to go back into that private Telegram and say good morning and, get called out for something stupid that I did on Twitter. So there is, a mix of, a lot of responsibility with having that as the PFP. And, you don't want to be, shunned or closed off by your peers within that, Telegram, because that community is everything. So, if I were to sell this, whoever it goes to, carry it with a crown, but carry it, that crown's going to be heavy, and you should be very cognizant on what you tweet, how you carry yourself, in real life, on the internet, in the DMs, outside of the DMs, no matter what and where you are. If you're portraying yourself as that punk, portray yourself how you would want other punks to act.
Right. That is a beautiful passing message, to your next holder. Hopefully it won't be anytime soon. And something that I think, you probably put in my mind too, is that, I think as soon as we are donning on the punk PFP, we do need to carry it with a degree of responsibility. Cool, man. So I guess that's basically sort of it for our sort of show. But any sort of final closing comments? How can people sort of find you? Anything you want to share with anybody?
No, yeah. If you like what you're hearing or want to follow me on Twitter, I would love that. If you have creative ideas and you're posting quality content, even if you're just funny and you're shit posting some good stuff, I'm always down for a good laugh. Doesn't always have to be dead serious. Doesn't always have to be analytical or talking about the market. Could be generally you're just a funny guy, and I like laughing, and I think a lot of people do. So there's plenty of ways to target an audience on Twitter. So if you want to shoot me a follow, I would greatly appreciate it. It's JpegPrez, GPEGPrez, and go ahead and follow my man Maxwellx as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, JpegPrez. I salute you, sir. And thanks everybody for listening. And that's a wrap for the PunkCast for today. Cheers.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.